My controlling husband accused me of cheating every time I talked to a man, then he cheated with his ex to teach me a lesson and it backfired. I wanted to share this because I really need advice on my current situation with my husband Robert. There were some red flags during our relationship that I chose to ignore, and now everything seems to be spiraling out of control. I met Robert 6 years ago when I was working as a receptionist at a dental clinic. He came in for a root canal treatment and started flirting with me right away. After his third appointment, he asked me out. I was initially hesitant because he was a patient, but he was so charming and good-looking that I agreed. Our first date went really well. He was attentive, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We dated for 2 years before getting married. During our dating period, I noticed he could be a bit possessive, but I brushed it off as him being protective. Like this one time, when a waiter was being friendly with me at a restaurant, Robert got visibly upset and demanded we leave immediately. He later said the waiter was obviously hitting on me and I was encouraging it by being too friendly. I should have seen this as a warning sign, but I was too in love to think clearly. We got married in a beautiful ceremony with all our friends and family present. The first year of marriage was relatively peaceful, though Robert would occasionally make comments about my clothing being too revealing or my friendly nature being inappropriate for a married woman. I started making small adjustments to keep the peace, like wearing less fitted clothes and being less chatty with male cashiers or servers. The real problems started about 2 years into our marriage. I had switched jobs and was working at a law firm as a legal secretary. The pay was better, and I was excited about the career change. However, Robert wasn't happy about me working in an environment with so many men. He would say things like, "I bet all those lawyers love having a pretty secretary to look at," or "I hope you're not bending over their desks too much." Things got progressively worse when I started carpooling with my coworker Mark, 35 male. Mark lives just 3 blocks away from us, and we work the same hours. It made perfect sense to carpool. We could split gas money and help the environment. When I told Robert about the arrangement, he completely lost it. He started yelling about how no married woman should be alone in a car with another man, how I was disrespecting our marriage, and how I probably chose this job just to be around other men. Despite my explanations about the practicality of carpooling and assurances that Mark was happily married with 3 kids, Robert demanded I stop immediately. He even started waking up earlier to drive me to work himself, even though it made him late for his own job. This lasted for 2 weeks before his boss complained about his tardiness. The breaking point of his first major outburst was when he showed up unannounced at my office during lunch. I was in the break room with Mark, another male colleague named James, and a female colleague named Lisa. We were all eating lunch and discussing an upcoming office party. Robert stormed in, his face red with anger. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises and tried to drag me out of the break room. My colleagues were shocked, and Lisa had to call our supervisor. The whole incident was humiliating, and I had to explain to HR why my husband had caused a scene at my workplace. After that incident, Robert insisted on installing a tracking app on my phone. He claimed it was for my safety, but it was clearly about control. He would check my location constantly and question every slight deviation from my usual route. If I stopped at a store after work, he would demand to see receipts and question why I hadn't told him about the stop beforehand. The situations kept getting more ridiculous. At my cousin Amy's wedding, I was paired with her brother, my cousin, Jack, for the traditional wedding party dance. Robert refused to attend the wedding because he couldn't bear to watch another man's hands on his wife. I went alone, and he gave me the silent treatment for 3 days afterward. He then accused me of probably sleeping with Jack, completely ignoring the fact that Jack is my cousin and has been happily married for 10 years. Another incident happened at our neighbor Nathan's barbecue party. Nathan, 40 male, approached me to ask about our garden, which I maintain. He had noticed our beautiful roses and wanted tips for his own garden. Robert practically dragged me away in the middle of the conversation, making a scene in front of all our neighbors. Later at home, he accused me of fucking Nathan and said I was probably planning to sleep with him. When I pointed out that Nathan's wife was standing right next to us during the conversation, Robert said I was being extra flirty to cover up my true intentions. I've never given Robert any reason to doubt my faithfulness. I don't hide my phone from him, I'm open about my whereabouts, and I've been completely faithful throughout our relationship. My friends and family have pointed out that his behavior is controlling and abusive, but I kept hoping he would change. I suggested marriage counseling multiple times, but Robert always refused. He said I was the one who needed to change my inappropriate behavior with other men. According to him, a married woman shouldn't even make eye contact with other men, let alone have conversations with them. I tried everything to make him feel secure. I would send him photos of who I was with at lunch. I started declining team lunches if male colleagues were present. I even changed my work schedule to avoid carpooling. But nothing helped. He would always find something new to be suspicious about. Last month, things reached a new level of absurdity when he accused me of having an affair with my sister's husband, David. We were at a family dinner, and David was telling funny stories about their kids. I was laughing along with everyone else, but Robert saw something sinister in it. He created such a scene that we had to leave early. My sister hasn't spoken to him since, and honestly, I don't blame her. I'm at my wit's end. I've been nothing but faithful, yet I'm constantly walking on eggshells. I can't have normal workplace interactions, I can't talk to male relatives, and I can't even have casual conversations with neighbors without being accused of wanting to sleep with them. I don't know what to do anymore. Edit. Thank you all for the supportive comments. Many of you have pointed out that his behavior is abusive and controlling, and I'm starting to see that now. Some of you suggested that his extreme jealousy might mean he's the one cheating. I honestly never considered that possibility, but now I can't stop thinking about it. I'll keep you updated on any developments. Update 1. Well, I definitely wasn't expecting things to turn out this way. Remember how some of you suggested in the comments that Robert's extreme jealousy might be projection of his own unfaithfulness? Turns out, you were absolutely right, and the way I found out was like a punch to the gut. Last Thursday, I left work early because of a terrible migraine. I hadn't had one in years, but the stress of everything must have triggered it. I didn't tell Robert the first was coming home early because I knew he would just accuse me of using it as an excuse to meet someone. That's how bad things had gotten. I couldn't even tell my husband I was sick without him suspecting something. When I got home around 2 p.m., I noticed an unfamiliar car in our driveway. I thought maybe Robert had come home early too, but I didn't recognize the vehicle. As I entered the house, I heard noises coming from upstairs. My heart started racing, not because I suspected cheating, but because I thought someone might have broken in. I quietly climbed the stairs, planning to call 911 if needed. That's when I heard a woman's laugh coming from our bedroom. I recognized that laugh. It was Sarah, Robert's ex-girlfriend from college. I had met her once at a mutual friend's party, where Robert had been extremely protective and rushed us out early because he claimed I was flirting with the host. I opened the bedroom door to find them in our bed, the bed where Robert would interrogate me about my supposed affairs. The bed where he would turn his back on me after accusing me of flirting with someone. They both scrambled to cover themselves when they saw me. But here's the most twisted part. When I just stood there, too shocked to speak, Robert looked me straight in the eye and said, "Now you know how it feels to be cheated on." He wasn't even sorry. He actually planned this whole thing as some sort of revenge for all my supposed cheating. I left the room and went downstairs. They both got dressed and followed me. Sarah looked uncomfortable, but Robert was almost smug. He started listing all my affairs: Mark from carpooling, Nathan from next door, my cousin Jack, my brother-in-law David, random male cashiers I smiled at, as justification for what he did. I later found out from our mutual friend Lisa that Robert had been in contact with Sarah for months. He had been feeding her stories about how I was constantly cheating on him, how he needed emotional support, how lonely he was. He had painted himself as the victim of an unfaithful wife, and Sarah had fallen for it. I packed a bag with some essentials and went to my sister's house. Robert has been alternating between calling and texting nonstop, either apologizing or accusing me of driving him to this by always flirting with other men. According to him, if I hadn't been so inappropriate with other men, he wouldn't have needed to teach me this lesson. The real kicker came when Sarah reached out to me the next day. Once she left our house, she started thinking about everything Robert had told her. She did some digging, talked to some mutual friends, and realized Robert had been lying about everything. She felt horrible and wanted to make things right. Sarah sent me all their text messages. It turns out Robert had been methodically planning this for weeks. He chose a day when I normally work late, knowing I would be suspicious if he was home early on a regular day. He had been manipulating Sarah for months, slowly convincing her that I was the villain in our marriage. The messages showed how he had crafted this narrative of me being unfaithful. Every innocent interaction I had with any man was twisted into evidence of an affair. He had even taken photos of me talking to male colleagues during office parties, claiming these were proof of my inappropriate behavior. My lawyer says these messages will help my divorce case. Yes, I've already contacted a lawyer. My sister's husband David, the one I was supposedly having an affair with, recommended a great divorce attorney who specializes in cases involving emotional abuse. Robert's family has been trying to convince me to give him another chance. His mother called me crying, saying he only did this because he loves me so much and couldn't bear the thought of losing me to another man. His sister texted saying I pushed him to this by not being more understanding of his insecurities. They're actually defending his decision to cheat on me as some sort of twisted love declaration. I've blocked Robert and his entire family on everything. I'm staying with my sister until I can figure out my next steps. The divorce papers will be ready next week. Lisa helped me get my important documents from the house when Robert was at work, and I've frozen our joint accounts. Looking back, I can see how he isolated me over the years. I lost touch with male friends because it wasn't worth the drama. I stopped attending office social events because he would interrogate me about every interaction. I even distanced myself from male relatives to keep the peace. All while he was the one actually cheating. My sister suggested I get tested for STDs since we don't know if Sarah was his only affair partner. That was a humiliating doctor's visit, but at least all tests came back negative. I'll update again when the divorce papers are served. My lawyer thinks we have a strong case with the evidence from Sarah and documentation of his controlling behavior from my coworkers who witnessed various incidents. Update 2. The situation has gotten both better and worse since my last update. Better because I'm finally free from Robert's constant accusations and controlling behavior, but worse because of what I've discovered about who my husband really is. After my last post, 3 women reached out to me through Facebook. At first, I ignored the messages thinking they were spam or drama seekers, but then one of them mentioned specific details about Robert that made me realize they were genuine. The first woman, Jessica, had been seeing Robert for 6 months. He met her at a gym near his workplace, a gym I didn't even know he went to because he told me he worked out at one closer to home. He fed her the same story about having an unfaithful wife who flirted with everyone. According to Jessica, he would often show up at her place crying about catching me with different men. The second woman, Michelle, had a shorter relationship with him, about 3 months. She was a bartender at a place Robert apparently frequented, another detail he hid from me. She said he would come in looking dejected, talking about his horrible marriage. He even showed her the tracking app on his phone as proof that I was cheating, pointing out every time I deviated from my usual route. The third woman, Rachel, didn't actually have a relationship with him but had been receiving messages and calls from him for months. She worked at his office and said he had been trying to convince her to start an affair, using his cheating wife story as justification. All these women came forward after seeing Sarah's social media post about Robert's lies. Yes, Sarah made a public post exposing him after she found out the truth. Initially, I was angry about her airing our dirty laundry, but now I'm grateful because it helped these other women find me. The divorce proceedings have started, and Robert is fighting dirty. His lawyer tried to paint me as emotionally abusive, claiming I deliberately flirted with other men to hurt him. They tried to use my carpooling with Mark as evidence of my inappropriate behavior, conveniently ignoring the fact that Mark's wife often joined us. Robert even submitted photos to the court, pictures he had taken of me talking to male colleagues at work events or neighborhood gatherings. In one photo, I was helping our elderly neighbor carry groceries. According to Robert, this was evidence of my constant pursuit of male attention. Thankfully, my lawyer is fantastic. She got statements from my coworkers about Robert's controlling behavior and his scene in the break room. Our neighbor Nathan and his wife provided statements about the barbecue incident. Even my cousin Jack and his wife wrote statements about Robert's behavior at family gatherings. Sarah testified about their affair and provided all their communications. When she heard about the other women, she felt even worse and has been fully cooperating. The text messages revealed that Robert had been systematically planning to claim I was abusive and unfaithful for months. He had been building his case by documenting every normal interaction I had with any man, twisting it to fit his narrative. The most shocking revelation came from Robert's therapist. Yes, apparently he had been seeing a therapist for months without telling me. The therapist reached out after Sarah's post because she realized Robert had been lying during their sessions. He had been using therapy to build a record of emotional abuse claims against me, telling the therapist elaborate stories about my supposed affairs. Robert's family is still trying to defend him. His mother showed up at my sister's house yesterday, crying about how I'm destroying her son's life. She brought photos from our wedding, talking about how happy we were. She conveniently ignores the fact that her son was maintaining relationships with multiple women while accusing me of cheating for simply talking to men. I've started looking for my own place. As much as I appreciate my sister and David's support, I need my own space to process everything. The real estate agent I'm working with is a woman because I just can't deal with male agents right now. I know that's exactly what Robert accused me of, but after everything that's happened, I need to feel safe. My lawyer says we should have everything wrapped up within a few months. With the evidence from Sarah, Jessica, Michelle, and Rachel, plus the documentation of Robert's controlling behavior, she's confident we'll get a favorable outcome. I'll update again when everything is finalized. For now, I'm focusing on healing and rebuilding my life. I've started journaling, and I'm considering therapy once the divorce is settled. I need to understand how I missed so many red flags and why I let things get so bad. Update 3. I'm finally writing this update from my new apartment, and I can't tell you how liberating it feels. The divorce was finalized last week, and I wanted to share how everything wrapped up. The court proceedings went surprisingly quickly once all the evidence was presented. The judge was particularly disturbed by the calculated nature of Robert's actions, how he had systematically built a false narrative about me while actively cheating himself. The photos he had collected of my normal daily interactions, which he tried to use against me, actually worked in my favor as they showed how he had been stalking and monitoring me. Sarah, Jessica, and Michelle all testified about their relationships with Robert. Their stories revealed a pattern. He would seek out women, tell them about his unfaithful wife, gain their sympathy, and then start relationships with them. Rachel's testimony about how he tried to manipulate her at work was particularly damaging to his case. The most satisfying moment was when Robert's lawyer tried to bring up the carpooling incident with Mark again. Mark's wife Amy showed up to testify, explaining how she was often part of the carpool and how Robert had harassed them multiple times. She even had dashcam footage of Robert following their car on several occasions. The judge granted me the divorce on grounds of adultery and emotional abuse. Robert tried to contest it, claiming he only cheated to teach me a lesson, but that argument didn't go over well with the judge. I got to keep most of our joint assets since I had contributed more to them anyway. However, Robert wasn't done. Last week, he showed up at my new apartment. I still don't know how he found my address. He was crying, saying he had realized his jealousy was irrational and that he never should have cheated. He claimed he was in therapy now and understanding his issues. He begged for another chance, saying he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. I closed the door in his face and called the police. I now have a restraining order against him. His mother called me the next day, saying I was being cruel by not giving him a chance to redeem himself. I blocked her number too. My life has changed significantly since everything happened. I'm still at the same law firm, but I've been promoted to executive secretary. My colleagues have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. I'm even carpooling with Mark and Amy again, which apparently drives Robert crazy when he hears about it from mutual friends. I've started therapy to deal with the trauma of his emotional abuse. My therapist is helping me recognize the red flags I missed and understand why I tolerated his behavior for so long. She's also helping me deal with the trust issues this whole experience has left me with. The most unexpected development was reconnecting with old friends who Robert had driven away. My college best friend John, who Robert had accused me of having feelings for, reached out after hearing about the divorce. We've rekindled our friendship, and it's reminded me of how many relationships I lost because of Robert's jealousy. Looking back, I can't believe I put up with his behavior for so long. I kept making excuses for him, trying to modify my behavior to make him feel secure, while he was the one being unfaithful all along. To anyone in a similar situation, don't wait until it gets worse. The red flags I ignored in the beginning turned into huge warning signs that I kept dismissing. I'm finally free to live my life without constantly defending normal interactions. I can talk to male colleagues without fear, maintain friendships without accusations, and just be myself without walking on eggshells. It's both terrifying and liberating. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your comments helped me see the truth about my situation and gave me the courage to leave.